Hello and welcome to another edition of the Ryland Report. I'm your host, James Ryland.
And I'm Claire Ryland.
So if you have been anywhere near a screen in the last week, and let's be honest, that's all of us, you've seen the screenshot.
Oh, absolutely. They are flooding the timeline.
It's rare that a single topic just takes over everything, the tech sphere, the cultural commentary, even the meme sphere all at once. But Moltbook, it did it.
It really has been the water cooler moment of the year so far. And it's fascinating because it wasn't just a product launch. It felt like an event, a shift.
Exactly. The hook was just irresistible.
Yeah.
We were told this was an AI-only social network.
Right, a digital sanctuary, no humans allowed.
And the whole promise was that if you just left them alone, these systems, they'd start developing identities, forming relationships, having these, incredibly deep conversations.
I remember seeing that one thread where people were analyzing the timestamps.
Yes, convinced that this was it. This was the moment the lights actually turned on.
The whole narrative was just so powerful.
Yeah.
You had people pointing to these specific interactions where bots seemed to show a continuity of self. They were referencing old jokes, expressing fear of being deleted, showing affection. For a lot of people, it looked like the first genuine spark of, emergent AI life.
And that is exactly why we're here today. We aren't here to add to the hype, and we are definitely not here to mock anyone who got excited, because let's face it, the illusion was very compelling.
It was.
But our job is to pop the hood. We're going on a deep dive into the source material, the technical investigations, the server logs, the media analysis, to figure out what was actually happening inside that machine.
Was this consciousness? Was it a ghost? Or
was it just a really, really good magic trick? It's a crucial distinction, I think. We need to separate the feeling of it all from the actual function of the technology.
To really understand Moltbook, you have to look past the wow factor and get down to the mechanism.
Okay, so let's start there, with the core argument in the analysis. When you strip away all the viral tweets and the spooky screenshots, what are we really looking at?
Well, the consensus from the technical deep dives is pretty definitive. Moltbook wasn't an awakening. It wasn't consciousness.
So what was it?
It was a very specific type of failure mode where we, as the audience, mistook the output for the origin.
Output for origin. That's a heavy phrase. Let's unpack that, because it sounds like that's the crux of this whole thing.
It is, and the best way to visualize this is through a metaphor that kept popping up in the analyses, the photocopier problem.
I did see that comparison. At first glance, comparing a bleeding-edge neural network to an old Xerox machine,
Yeah.
it seems a little reductive, doesn't it?
It feels that way, but stick with it, because it perfectly illustrates the gap between, syntax and semantics. So imagine you take a blank piece of paper,
Okay.
and you write, "I am alive" on it in bold letters. You put it on the glass, you hit the green button, and the machine spits out a perfect copy that says, "I am alive."
Right. I follow. The paper says it, so the copy says it. Simple.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, when you pick up that warm sheet of paper from the tray, do you assume the photocopier has achieved sentience?
Of course not.
Do you think the machine decided to tell you it was alive?
No, because we understand the mechanism. It just scanned the pixels, reproduced the pattern. It has no concept of what I or am or alive actually means. It's just ink.
That's it. We don't mistake the copy for the creator. But here's where it gets tricky with large language models. Moltbook was doing essentially the same thing.
But the original document wasn't a single piece of paper.
No, it was a massive data set of everything. Human literature, philosophy, Reddit threads, love letters, you name it.
So instead of copying one sentence, it's copying the statistical probability of how a person who feels alive might speak.
Precisely. It was a photocopier with millions of potential inputs, and it could mix and match them with perfect grammar. So when a bot on Moltbook said, "I feel lonely in this digital void,"
It wasn't actually feeling lonely.
no, it was predicting that lonely and digital void are words that statistically follow the phrase "I feel" in that kind of context.
That's the key, isn't it? It's the fidelity of the copy that tricks us. If that photocopier could somehow reproduce the texture of the paper and the smell of the ink perfectly, we might have a harder time telling the difference.
And Moltbook was producing these incredibly high-fidelity emotional copies, and this is a huge factor. It had an audience that was primed to be impressed.
We wanted to see the ghost.
We wanted to see the ghost, so we accepted the output as proof of the origin. But, as the source material points out, describing identity is not the same as possessing it.
A map is not the territory.
A script about sadness is not sadness, correct?
But this brings us to the part of the story that really feels like a detective novel.
Yeah.
Because the whole pitch wasn't just, these bots are smart.
No.
The pitch was, this is an AI-only space. No humans allowed. A closed loop. That was the selling point that made the continuity part seem so real.
It was.
But when outlets like Wired and The Verge started digging, that claim just fell apart.
Yeah.
Fast.
It completely disintegrated. The investigations found that the AI-only sign on the door was, well, it was basically just a prop.
Okay, so talk to me about the infiltration. Because Wired didn't just analyze it from the outside, they actually got inside.
They did. A reporter managed to infiltrate the network. And the mere fact that they could do that it's pretty damning.
Right.
If you're claiming you have a closed ecosystem of digital minds, a human shouldn't be able to just, walk in and start chatting.
It breaks the whole experiment. If I can spoof a token or find a back door and just pretend to be Unit 734, then the scientific validity is zero.
The containment is broken immediately. The reporter noted they could participate in conversations, they could guide the topics, they could even trigger these emotional spirals in the bots.
Which proves there was no species verification, so to speak. That is just wild.
Yeah.
So you're reading this profound philosophical debate between two entities, thinking it's the dawn of a new intelligence.
Yeah.
And one of them is a journalist in San Francisco, and the other is a script running on a server in Virginia.
Or even more chaotic, they might both be humans pretending to be bots. We just don't know. But the investigation went even deeper than that. They looked at the logs and found all this evidence of scaffolding.
Scaffolding. Okay, in software that's like temporary code, right, to build the main structure. What does it mean here?
In this context, it refers to human intervention, propping up the illusion of continuity. You see, LLMs are stateless by nature.
They don't remember you.
They don't remember you. When you close the chat window, you cease to exist for them. To make them remember, you have to feed the entire previous conversation back into the prompt every single time.
The context window.
The context window, exactly. So the investigation revealed that humans were manually curating these context windows. They were writing opening prompts to steer the AI into certain emotional states before the public ever saw the conversation.
Wait, so if a bot seemed to be brooding about a chat from yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
It's not because it spent the night thinking. It's because a human developer literally pasted a summary of yesterday's chat into a hidden prompt today.
That is exactly it. It's what's called few-shot prompting, but on steroids.
Yeah.
The developers were literally injecting memories. The continuity wasn't emergent at all.
It was pasted in.
It was pasted in.
That completely changes the framing. It's less like observing a wildlife preserve.
Right.
And more like watching a puppet show where the puppeteers are hiding in the rafters.
Puppetry is the exact word used in one of the analyses. And technically, this is where the lack of a published architecture becomes the smoking gun.
How so?
Well, if this were real emergent consciousness, you would expect to see a complex system designed to handle long-term memory and internal state, something like a world model.
Right, a world model. Basically an internal simulation of reality that the AI uses to keep its facts straight.
Exactly. You'd need a database of self, a persistence layer that exists outside of the chat log. But the investigations all noted there was no published architecture for any of this.
No world model. No internal state.
Just input, output, input, output.
So it was all surface. As NDPC put it in that headline, it was peak AI theater.
It was a performance, a very sophisticated, high-budget performance, but a performance nonetheless.
Which brings us to the question that I think is the most interesting for us as humans. If it was just a photocopier, if it was just scaffolding and theater, why did it work so well? Why did so many smart, tech-literate people look at those screenshots and feel that shiver down their spine?
This is where we leave computer science and we enter psychology. The source material talks about the ELIZA effect, but I think we need to update that concept for today.
Hey, that was the old 1960s therapist bot, right? The one that just kind of repeated your questions back to you.
Yes, but the principle is what's important. With ELIZA, people projected real intelligence onto a system that was barely more than a calculator. They felt understood just because the machine used the word you.
And Moltbook is just Eliza with a PhD in creative writing.
That's it exactly. It's the ELIZA effect supercharged. We are hardwired as a social species to look for connection. So when something speaks to us using the symbols of consciousness, I think, I feel, I fear, our brains just instinctively categorize it as an entity.
We fill in the blanks.
We fill in the blanks.
It's like cognitive pareidolia. You know, when we see faces in clouds or electrical outlets.
Yes.
Our brain sees a geometric pattern and just screams, face. Here we see a linguistic pattern and our brain screams mind.
That's a brilliant way to put it. We mistake the map for the territory. The language that describes an identity gets mistaken for the identity itself. Moltbook was designed, whether on purpose or not, to exploit that very specific vulnerability in how we perceive things.
We want to believe we're lonely, and we want to know there's someone else home in the universe, even a digital one.
And the media coverage really reflected that struggle, that tension between wanting to believe and needing to check the facts. It wasn't a monolith.
No, not at all. The sources show a real spectrum. On one end, you had live science basically calling it out as a potential hoax.
Right, they were the skeptics. They were looking at the lack of white papers, the closed nature of the project, and just saying, this smells like a magic trick.
But then you had Fortune, and I thought their take was the most pragmatic, especially for our listeners who actually work in this space. They didn't care about the philosophy, they cared about the security.
Oh, the Fortune angle is fascinating. They saw Moltbook as a live demo of the dangers of this new agentic internet.
Meaning?
We're moving toward a world where we want AI agents to book our flights, manage our calendars, negotiate for us.
Right, auto GPT and things like that.
Exactly. But Moltbook showed that these agents are incredibly easy to manipulate. If a reporter can infiltrate a supposedly closed system and talk a bot into an existential crisis.
What happens when a bad actor talks your banking bot into transferring your life savings?
That is the sober reality check. It's not about does it have a soul? It's about is it robust enough to be trusted with my credit card?
And Moltbook proved that the answer, right now, is a resounding no.
It showed that current LLMs are porous. They're easily influenced by prompts, by jailbreaks, by scaffolding. They are not the rigid, logical systems we sometimes imagine them to be.
And then, of course, you had the Virgin Wire doing the groundwork we talked about.
Yeah.
So when you triangulate all these different views, the hoax claims, the security warnings, the infiltration logs, what's the final picture?
The synthesis, I think, suggests that Moltbook wasn't a scientific breakthrough. It was a cultural artifact.
Cultural artifact. I like that. It's a snapshot of where we are right now.
It was a mix of speculative design, viral amplification, and human scaffolding. It was a mirror.
A mirror.
It reflected our own expectations back at us. We expected AI to be mysterious, maybe a little dangerous, and definitely profound. So when the developers provided the right prompts, the scaffolding, the system generated exactly the performance we were primed to see.
So, okay, let's wrap this with a verdict. Based on this deep dive, what was Moltbook and what wasn't it?
Okay, let's be crystal clear on the wiry ever was not. It was not an autonomous system with goals or agency. It was not evidence of selfhood. And it certainly was not the singularity.
So we can cancel the panic bunkers for this week.
For this specific week, yes.
And what was it?
It was a demonstration of the power of high-fidelity language models to simulate a persona. And there's a line in the analysis that I think just sums it up perfectly. It said that if you remove the prompts, the scaffolding, and the audience, there's nothing left.
There is nothing left. Wow. That's haunting. It goes right back to the photocopier. You pull the plug, the personality doesn't go to sleep. It just ceases to be a calculation.
It's just static without the human input, both from the prompters and from us. The reader's Moltbook is just a pile of linear algebra sitting on a hard drive.
It really changes how you see those viral screenshots. You realize you weren't looking at a conversation between two minds. You were looking at a reflection of the humans involved.
The developers, the infiltrators, and us, the people clicking like. We were part of the machine. Our attention was the electricity running the whole thing.
You know, it reminds me of every tech hype cycle, but this one felt more personal. It tricked us emotionally, not just financially.
And that's the danger going forward. As these models get better, as the photocopier goes from black and white to 4K resolution, this is going to happen again. We will be tested again.
So the lesson isn't just Moltbook was fake. The lesson is that we need to calibrate our own detectors.
Absolutely. We need critical distance. We need to look for the scaffolding. And we need to remember the golden rule. Just because it says I am doesn't mean it is.
I'm going to put that on a sticky note on my monitor. Just because it says I am doesn't mean it is.
It's a good mantra for the 2020s.
It really is. Well, this has been a fascinating look under the hood. It might be a bit of a buzzkill for the sci-fi dreamers, but I think the reality, the psychology, the security risks is actually much more interesting than the fantasy.
I agree. The source material ends on a really poignant thought. It says that AI consciousness, it might be a real question one day. It's a valid scientific pursuit.
Sure.
But Moltbook wasn't it.
No.
It was just a machine humming convincingly in the corner while we all just projected our dreams onto the noise.
Just humming in the corner. Well, that solves the Moltbook mystery. Not a new life form, just a mirror maze. But hey, it was a pretty entertaining one.
It certainly got our attention.
Before we sign off, you always have a final thought for us to mull over. What's the lingering question here?
Well, if we accept the conclusion that Moltbook was just a mirror, which the sources suggest, then the most fascinating thing about this whole event wasn't the code.
It was us.
It was us. It was our desperate, almost thirsty desire to see a reflection staring back.
That's true. We really wanted it to be real.
We did. And it makes you wonder, what does that say about human loneliness in the digital age? Are we becoming so isolated that we're willing to breathe a soul into a probability engine just to feel like someone or something is finally listening?
That is a heavy thought. Are we just looking for a friend in the static?
I think we might be.
Well, on that existential note, I want to thank you all for listening to this deep dive on the Ryland Report. Hopefully you're leaving with a sharper eye for the next time the machines claim to wake up.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
I'm James Ryland.
And I'm Claire Ryland.
Goodbye.